There you
There we
go.
go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Read a Classic Novel Together. This is the channel where we tackle those famous works of literature that you pretend to have read when you were at a dinner party with your intelligent, sophisticated, and generally superior friends. I'm here with my esteemed colleague and great friend, Margaret Luongo,
Hi, everybody.
an award-winning fiction writer and a professor of creative writing at the University of Miami in Ohio. How's it going,
Miami
Margaret?
University.
Miami University in Ohio. Did I get it right?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Miami University.
Oh, Miami
Yeah.
University. Did I say
Yeah.
University of Miami?
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
I'm going to get it one of these days.
Yeah.
Like that'll be the 11th or 12th video I'm going to get it. So, and this episode, we're tackling roughly the first half, I'd say, of George Eliot's Middlemarch, 1872. George Eliot was, of course, a woman, Mary Ann Evans, writing under a pseudonym. And and I personally wanted to read this book because I saw it was on a lot of people's top 100 lists, maybe even top 10 lists. This is a book so famous that other books have been written about reading it.
I have not encountered any of those.
Yeah, there's a pretty good book. I've read a little bit of it called My Life in Middlemarch about, I think she's a professor, but she wrote about her experience reading Middlemarch.
Oh,
But
cool.
anyway, so it is that level of famous literature.
Do you know if anybody has rewritten it set in a more contemporary or modern time?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know of anybody who has.
Okay. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like this book is as famous as like Jane Austen's books, which are, I think, roughly the same period, maybe a little earlier. I guess Austen's books were written in like the 1830s. So
there's so much about different kinds of work in this book and the value of what people do or don't do.
Right.
I feel like looking at work through that lens would be really interesting now,
Yeah.
Like what people do for work, what is seen as valuable, who works, who doesn't work, what qualifies as real work. But of course, there's like a whole class of people in this book who think it's beneath them to work for the most part.
Right.
Yeah. Do we have that now? I mean, okay, so I'm going to bring politics into it. So venture capitalists, do they really work?
Or is what they do socially worthless? I don't know.
Yeah, they enrich themselves and their friends, other people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt we still have a class thing in the West, especially in America. Maybe it's even worse in England, but it's bad enough here in America.
It is.
Having grown up in the South, there's definitely class strata in the South between wealthy people and working class people, and educated people and non-educated people.
Yeah.
So, now that you mention it, I didn't really think about that, but that's definitely one of the, I guess, dividing points of the book. It's, the people who are the down-to-earth people are much more clearly. Eliot is on their side. She sees them as more of the admirable, decent, non-selfish, non-egotistical people, like I guess I'm thinking of what, James, the guy who tries to marry Dorothy at the beginning.
Yeah.
He seems, although I guess he's wealthy, but
he is. He's trying to do the right thing, though.
Yeah, he seems very down to earth. I like his perceptions of Casaubon as being like an old wormy guy, a bookworm.
Yeah,
dry old bookworm. You can't believe that Dorothy is going for him.
She is sadly mistaken.
Yes, she makes a terrible, tragic, although it works out for her sister, I guess, so far.
Yeah, and she's out of the picture. So they must have had a happy ending because they're no longer interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
They're
We're
off,
done with that storyline. There's
they're out
nothing
of
to
the scene.
see.
They're off camera, completely
Yeah.
off camera.
They're dead to us.
Yes. And well, like Mary Garth, she's the poor girl, and she's
No.
obviously much more sympathetic and wiser, actually,
Yes.
than poor old Dorothea, who makes terrible, terrible choices,
Yeah.
all kinds of reasons. There's Lydgate, right? He's poor. He's really smart. He's a very talented doctor, but he has no money.
Yes. And he's latched himself onto somebody who also doesn't really have money, but has been raised as if she does.
Right.
And, she's just supposed to be pretty and spend money and make a nice house.
Yes. And she likes money, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, she wants money.
She likes spending it.
Yeah. Rosamund. That's a.
Yeah. That's the Vinceys. They
Yeah.
raised Fred and Rosamund to be like of the upper class.
Right.
But is Vincey the one who's like a not very good businessman? Or what's his deal? I can't remember.
I think he is a good businessman.
Okay.
But he's kind of a social climber, and he's kind of self-conscious about being in the middle class, I guess, or the working class.
Okay.
My perception of him as being a pretty decent guy.
Okay.
But deeply flawed. Anyway, sorry.
But he raised his children to be non-working and
posh.
As if they have more money. Yeah, right. Posh. Right. So Fred is an idiot. He just keeps losing money.
He's kind of a lovable fuck up. That's my perception of Fred.
I don't love Fred.
You don't love him? He's just a fuck up.
He's just a fuck up. And look what he did to Mary and Mrs. Garth, who worked really hard for their pittance and saved it. And Fred doesn't work. He dropped out of school, or did he fail out or something?
It's not clear. And
then he loses money. He keeps losing money. And Mr. Garth, of course, signs that he's an idiot too. But I do like Mr. Garth.
Yeah, Mr. Garth.
But he's got these noble ideas about work. Like he's excited to be put in charge of the farms to make everything better. He wants to help people. He recognizes noble work when he sees it, but he's saying, I almost don't even need money for this. I would do this for nothing because it's such noble work. And his wife is like, we need the money. Like, don't do it for no money, you idiot. We fucking need the money. So that's maddening. But yeah, that was like killing me when Mrs. Garth and Mary had to give up their money for Fred, who is so useless. Like, that was killing me. Like, it was on par with a baby dying in fiction, right? Like these poor women having to give their money up, their hard-earned money, to this idiot who was like just a soup sandwich.
Well, yeah, he must be. I mean, he's definitely kind of the Victorian cad, right? I mean, he's charming and he's funny and he's probably good looking, but he's definitely a dipshit at best. Because he is trying to get more. He's trying in his mind. He's trying to make the debt right.
Yes, he is.
Or whatever, buying a horse.
Yes,
the horse goes lame and he's screwed. So yeah, he's definitely a dipshit.
He doesn't know how dumb he is.
Right. But I have a feeling that the book is moving towards some kind of rehabilitation. I don't know, maybe not.
I don't know.
I mean, that's definitely one of the three. I mean, the book is kind of like Friends, right? The series, there's like three couples,
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It just occurred to me. Well, I mean, I knew there was three couples, but you got like Dorothy and Casaubon and maybe Will, maybe in there.
Oh yeah.
There's something between them. You got Lydgate and Rosamund, and then you got Mary and Fred. And the book kind of, it's like between commercial breaks, we're going with each one of these couples for a little while. I mean, I was surprised in the book. I thought the whole book was going to be about Dorothy at first, because it doesn't really. I don't remember how far into the book it veers off, but it's a pretty good ways. I think it's like 3 or 4 or 5 chapters.
Yep.
And but anyway, it works for me. The story is I'm into it.
Me too. I'm
Mm.
reading it at the end of the day,
Yeah,
before I go to bed, and I look forward to that because it
yeah,
has nothing to do with anything else I'm doing or any part of my life except us talking about it.
right.
So, like in a way, it's a perfect lens through which to view just ideas about work or class or
Mhm.
whatever or human nature.
Yeah,
It's very concrete, but because it's a different time period, a different country, it feels abstracted from our lives.
right. It's safe. It's a safe distance historically. That's true.
Exactly.
Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, I read it right before I go to sleep too, because I find it soothing.
Hmm.
I kind of like, Eliot's mind. I mean, you get a sense of her. This is definitely a 19th century novel in that she talks directly to you, or the narrator talks directly to you and tells you what's going on, but she's very smart. She's obviously a wickedly smart person,
Hmm.
and she seems to have a really good grasp of human, you know, stupidity, and she seems very wise, and I find the book soothing for that reason. She's like a really smart aunt. That's how I think of her, your
Hmm.
favorite aunt. But so yeah, so thumbs up on the pre bedtime, late
Yes.
bedtime.
Yep. It is soothing.
Yeah.
And it's true. Just she's so smart and insightful. And
Hmm.
she actually is very gentle with them. None
Yeah.
of the characters are presented as evil. And,
No.
as much as Fred upsets me,
Hmm.
um, I I think that's why his situation pains me so much because, I can remember being that stupid, fortunately not going into that kind of debt, but,
Hmm.
just being really stupid about everything and not knowing how
Yeah.
ignorant. But you don't want to be in that situation. It
No.
is like a train wreck just
Yeah.
watching. You're like, oh no.
He's incredibly selfish
Yes.
in the way of a cad. I mean, there's no, this is a G-rated book. I mean, he's not like seducing women and everything that we think of
Right.
as like the Victorian rake, but he's definitely self-absorbed and
Mhm.
makes some idiotic moves.
Even Casaubon,
Yeah,
he's not nice to Dorothea,
no,
and but I feel sorry for him because
yeah,
he's sort of just catching on that he's spent his adult life on this research that is going to amount to nothing.
right,
And on the one hand, I mean, as writers, we're also kind of engaged in some projects that might be futile or, that might fail. And we
right,
think it's worth doing that, right? That it's
right,
worth our time. Um, so on the one hand, he's committed to something, but
yeah,
it also feels really egotistical that
mhm,
his undertaking, like he did not undertake it with that humility of like, well, I might not get anything
mhm,
out of this. I might fail, but I have to do it.
right,
I mean, maybe there's like a little bit of intellectual curiosity, but it feels a little bit more personal,
right,
uh, less about intellectual curiosity and more about conquering
yeah,
a field.
yeah. No, he's isolated himself. He doesn't
Yeah.
have friends to tell him, "Hey, you're totally way off base." It's just like a writer writing in isolation. You get
Yeah.
writing 1,000-page
Mm.
autobiography, and it's crap, but you don't know it's crap because you don't let anybody else read it. And
Right. And
and
somebody tried to tell him, like, you really need to learn German
yeah,
because the Germans are way ahead of you on
yeah,
this.
they've already gone through this crap
Yeah.
and totally reject. Yeah, I mean, it's like it is tragic. He's a
Yeah.
tragic. I see him as a tragic figure,
Yeah.
but the tragedy, as is usually the case in literature anyway, he brings a lot of it onto himself,
Hmm.
being selfish and thinking he's going to write his great treatise or whatever it is and be remembered for all time. When in fact, he's just this little crank
Yeah.
scribbling away year after year,
Yeah.
and of course, it's 10 times worse when Dorothea figures that out.
Yes. Yeah. That
Mm.
she's hitched herself to him for life.
old,
Yeah.
pasty guy who's, I guess it's Will who kind of cues her in that
Mhm.
scene, which is a good scene where
Mhm.
he kind of falls in love with her, even as he's disillusioning her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the relationship between Will and Casaubon. I mean, Will is his nephew, right? Or his cousin, or what the hell?
I think it's Will is the son of Casaubon's grandmother's sister or something. So are they?
Okay. So
Does
the
that sound?
cousins. So,
Yes, there's some kind of cousin.
and isn't Will like dependent on Casaubon for money or something like that?
Yeah, because his mother was disowned by the family because she married somebody that they didn't approve of.
Oh, so she was a free spirit as well,
Yes.
presumably.
And Casaubon is doing the right thing by giving him a living
An allowance.
allowance. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it seems like Mary, Ladislaw. Does she call him Will or does she call him Ladislaw?
Does Mary call? I don't know.
No, Eliot. I've
Oh,
noticed that all the women go by their first names. All the men except Fred go by their last name. She addresses them. She refers to them by their last name, which I guess is maybe a period thing.
maybe.
But I guess Fred, if you called him Vincent, you wouldn't be able to tell him from his dad.
Right.
But he seems more like a Fred,
Oh, he
seems,
does. Yeah.
But
Huh.
the book reminded me a little bit of D.H. Lawrence. That
Yeah.
it's a good ways before D.H. Lawrence. I guess it's 30 or 40 years. But Lawrence's characters are all divided between like the darker, selfish, egotistical, sadistic people and the bright, free-spirited, adventurous, generous people who are usually of the lower working class, but very
Yeah.
smart and have educated themselves.
I don't remember. I've read a couple of his books, but I don't remember them well enough to say. But that sounds right for, isn't there a gardener and Lady Chatterley's Lover?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like in Women in Love, the one sister they're both very smart and good looking, but one is very, more hippie like. She's more into artists and, and writers, and she's a better person. She's more generous. She doesn't judge people. And the other one, Gudrun, is much darker, and she's attracted to the rich, good-looking guy who runs the mill and treats all his mill workers like robots. It's she finds that a turn on. It's heavy stuff. This is heavy stuff too. It's not as dark or sexual. It's not sexual at all, like Lawrence, but it's the same kind of theme. It's like this dark light. All these couples have a dark light aspect to them that I thought was cool.
Yeah, you mentioned the last time we talked that every situation was like teetering on the verge of total catastrophe, but so far it hasn't gone that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like with Dorothy and Casaubon, there's hope because he has a heart attack. He might
Right. Yeah. He might die. There's hope.
Yeah, God might intervene. So but yeah, that one's probably the most painful of the three relationships to read about. But Lydgate and Rosamund are going to be a close second.
Yeah.
And I don't really like either of them that much.
Yeah.
But Lydgate, he's kind of an arrogant asshole, but he seems honest and he wants to be a good doctor and he saves Fred's life. But isn't it Fred who gets sick? Yeah, Fred.
Yeah. You're right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it goes by pretty quick, but that's how Lydgate comes into the family and falls in love with Rosamund. Rosamund, as you say, she's very shallow and she's definitely, a cheerleader. She wants to be the prettiest girl and most high status. But I still kind of like her. I mean, she seems decent.
Well, and she's doing what she's been trained to do.
Yeah, she's a monster, but she didn't make herself a monster. Her parents did, like you said.
Yeah. And she was just at the beginning of her adult life. So
Right.
we'll see. It's like in a way, any of us coming from whatever family we came from,
Mhm.
Trying to make it work with this other person who may or may not have the same exact experiences and background. Then you've got to like figure out how to make your own family, and
Mhm.
it's probably not going to look like, or maybe it will, but yeah, so we'll just see what she's capable of. Is she
Right.
capable of changing her
Mhm.
trajectory based on her new circumstances? Can she
Right.
tolerate that?
Right. But I definitely see Lydgate as being the more sympathetic
Of the
you know,
pair.
of the pair, just like
Mhm.
Dorothy is way more sympathetic of her pair. And
Mhm.
Mary's way, way more sympathetic than, although I still kind of like Fred, but Mary is in some ways the smartest. Seems like she and Will are the smartest people in the book. They're the
I was actually thinking that she and Will would have made like a better
good
couple.
couple. Yeah, she's got the sense not to marry Fred. She's like, won't even think about it
Yeah.
until he cleans up his act, which he may or may not be able to do.
Right.
Well, you think he's hopeless. I mean, he's a hopeless idiot, but
Maybe. I'm
maybe,
afraid so.
you may be right. But at least she's got the sense, unlike Dorothea, to not get herself entangled in this thing yet. Maybe she will. Maybe that's going to be in the second half of the book. But
I can't
and
see.
Will, he sees Casaubon for what he is, and he
Yeah.
thinks he's kind of a laughable doofus.
Mhm.
So it seems like Lawrence. Sorry to keep coming back to Lawrence, but he
Oh, that's
always
all
has smart characters. Who like in Women in Love, it's Birkin, I guess is I think it's his name. I have to watch the movie again. But anyway, so yeah.
right.
But yeah, I'm into it.
I was going to say something about Mary. Oh, I was really, you said she seemed like one of the smartest ones in the book.
Mhm.
I was really impressed in that moment with,
The Will.
yeah, the
Yeah,
will, when
the
she was
Will.
immediately like, no, I'm alone with you here. I'm not burning anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, why not just do it? But then she's very vulnerable. She
Yeah.
can't, people are going to be like, what? You burned a will and the only witness is dead? You say he told you to burn it. So there was
And
no witness. So she would have been too vulnerable.
right. And I think she's just too good a person. She knows Featherstone. He's really the most villainous, maybe the only real villain
Yeah.
in the story. He's like Mr. Potter and It's a Wonderful Life. He's sitting up there in his bed and playing with people's lives and dangling money in front of
Yeah.
them. It's like, and he's enjoying every minute of it. But yeah, to me, that was the most powerful moment so far in the book. It's almost biblical. He's like the devil trying to tempt her into doing this terrible thing. Which maybe would burning the will have helped Fred? Would that have given him the money?
Yes, it
Okay.
would have. Yeah.
So by doing the right thing, she deprives her would-be boyfriend of his
Mhm.
fortune, which is even more rich, I guess, thematically.
Yeah.
I'm doing this with my hands as I say this. I don't know what that means, but it has something to do with complexity,
Yes, there you go. It's
Uh,
fraught.
fraught, very
Um,
fraught. My fingers are fraught.
but
But
don't you think Fred would have just wasted that money
no
anyway?
doubt. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt. But it probably is a good thing. You're right.
Yeah.
It's almost like fate, destiny is. Yeah, I mean, he'd either blow it all or he'd just be a wastrel for the rest of his life. And
So now we get to see like what he is capable of,
yes,
and she's so good at putting characters in those positions. Like, okay, here's a tough spot. Can
mhm,
you rise to the occasion? Let's see what you do.
right. Yeah, and
Little experiments.
she's a great novelist, no doubt. And nobody's heard of her except English nerds like
Yeah.
me.
Why hasn't somebody made this into a movie?
I don't know. I mean, there've been like how many adaptations of Pride and Prejudice have there been? It's like one every 6 months comes
Yeah.
out.
And Pride and Prejudice with zombies. Pride and
Yes.
Prejudice and zombies.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely hasn't penetrated the contemporary lit consciousness as much as Austen. Maybe she doesn't deserve to, because she didn't write as many books. And Austen's really good too. In fact, I'm thinking maybe we'll do an Austen book if you're up for it.
Yeah, that would be great.
But yeah, she's this one book. If she hadn't written anything else, I know she's written other famous. Adam Bede is another one.
I haven't read it. This is my first.
It's my first too. I've read a little bit of Adam Bede, and I liked it. And I was listening to an audio lecture of great 19th century lit, and the guy said that the professor on that tape said that Eliot, her IQ must have been like 180 plus. I was like, oh yeah, sure. And I'm like, yeah, probably,
yeah. I know.
I don't know about you, but I found myself looking up more words than I have in a hell of a long time.
And rereading sentences.
Yes.
I love her long sentences because though mine are not as good as hers, it's like, see, people used to be able to read long sentences.
Yeah. Yeah. Screw the short, punchy sentence. This one falls down a well, goes up the drain pipe, comes back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the like pillulous? What the hell is pillulous? I looked it up. I already forgot. I can't remember.
Okay, yeah. Because it's not something we encounter. So
right. Some of these words have gone out of, but I think we should bring them back. I think we should bring them all back. I'm going to start using pillulous.
I have a dictionary close at hand. I actually still use a dictionary.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it makes any difference. Hang on, I'm going to take my earbuds out.
You getting your dictionary? Oh shit! It's a big one.
Yeah, I don't think the mechanical act of looking it up helps me retain anything, but
that's a myth.
But I've had this dictionary for about 25 years. Yeah. So it doesn't do what very contemporary dictionaries or looking when you look things up. It doesn't record the correct definition plus usage, like contemporary usage. It's just the correct definition. Right. So now, like if you look stuff up online, it'll give you, the correct definition and also how it's being used by current speakers, which is not necessarily actually the definition of the word. So that's disturbing, but it is a living language. So
yes, it is. No, a good thing about an older dictionary is that some of these words, every word in this book is at least 150 years old. So it's good it's probably going to be in there.
Okay, I can't, Chuck, could you spell it for me?
Yes, hold on. Oh, crap. P-I-L-U-L.
P-I-L-U-L.
Us. O-U-S.
Pillulous. Pillulous.
Has anyone ever pinched into its pillulous smallness?
Yeah. So there's pillule, a small pill, pillulous, and it just, that's it. Sorry, this is no use.
Oh, that's okay. I'll track it down for the next video.
Pillulous, an adjective. Thank you. Huh? Like a pill shape.
Okay,
that's pill shape. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Pillulous smallness. There you go.
All right. We need more dictionaries. We need period correct dictionaries.
Yes.
I bet the internet could help.
The internet. The Google probably knows what pillulous means. But
so I wanted to go back to Rosamund for a second because when we were in a chapter that dealt with her more, we got to hear her in conversation with Lydgate, and she actually was very smart, like very self-aware, and also of her place in Middlemarch and Middlemarch's place in like the rest of the countryside or the and I thought, wow, she really does know herself, and she was like self-deprecating, and she's like, well, I'm this in like a very middling place. I'm just like an average person in a very average place. So I thought that spoke well of her, and that she had kind of a slightly defeated air about everything she's done to be who she is, and yet,
Right.
here she is. It's just in Middlemarch.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. In fact, it's hard to get a good read on her, which I guess makes her a good character. She is very smart, but there's something almost fatalistic about her. She
Yeah.
she knows money's really important and status is really important. And she, like you say, she's been designed to be this successful ingenue.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but she falls in love with Lydgate, and he's got no money, so there's
Yep.
something good there.
Yeah.
But and you reminded me, Dorothea, she wants to be an architect. I found that super tragic, that
Yeah.
she's designing. Apparently, she's actually doing architectural drawings of like
Mhm.
peasant housing or
Yeah,
worker
the
housing.
cottages. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like she's just born 100 years too soon or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and that's part of her tragic thing. The only way she can find, intellectual expression is through her husband, or so she thinks,
Mhm.
helping him with his great intellectual
Ugh.
achievement, which is garbage. But
Yeah.
so that's rough. Whereas Mary's just a nurse. That's what she does, and she seems comfortable with that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, you're right. One of the great themes I think of the book so far is self-awareness. None of these people is terribly, terribly self-aware, except maybe Will and Mary, and
Yeah.
a little bit Rosamund. Rosamund
Oh,
is,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, maybe they're not, some of the younger ones are not as aware because they're young,
yeah,
and,
that's true.
like Rosamund knows who
Mhm.
she is, but yet she can't help falling in love with Will.
Mhm.
And oh wait, not Will,
Lydgate
Lydgate.
is
And so
Tertius.
what's that?
His first name is Tertius. It's a hell of a
Oh
name.
my god. No
Yeah,
wonder I didn't remember that.
yeah,
Okay. Um, so she can't help herself from falling in love with him and then not dealing with the reality of that,
right.
you know. But that's like it is a wonderful and maybe foolish thing, but better than marrying somebody she doesn't care about or is incompatible with, but they have money.
Right. Yeah. She's definitely, you can't write her off as a character, as like the way you can Casaubon. You can't write her off as being tragic or hopeless. She's not
Yes.
hopeless.
No.
She definitely has some dark aspects to her.
Is Casaubon hopeless because he's older? Like he's already invested so
Instead,
much time and money and effort into his ambition, that he can't let it go or he can't change?
well, that's a good point. I mean, if this were a James Joyce novel, he probably wouldn't be hopeless. I mean, he might have one of these epiphanies that breaks him out of his, rigid, pre-aware consciousness. Like who's the guy in The Dead? Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel. Gabriel Conroy.
Mhm.
He's very much like, he's kind of like Casaubon. He's very rigid, very formal. And so it's a good question. I would say no, he's not hopeless, but dramatically in the scope of this novel, I think he's probably hopeless.
Okay. Or he might have the insight and then die.
Yeah, yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
It's like Tobias Wolff, I think. He's got that book, that story called Bullet in the Brain.
Oh
Have you ever
yeah.
heard that
Yeah.
one? Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a
So,
good story.
yeah.
It's a model for nothing but itself,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Or, Flannery O'Connor, she's got all these great stories where somebody finds insight right before they cack or get killed off by some
Yeah,
psychopath.
right.
But anyway, we digress. I digress. It's a good question.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll
So,
just see.
yeah. So I guess we're gonna do this book in 2 episodes. Is that cool? Just
I think
finish.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big book, but we're getting through it pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we getting through it quickly? I feel like, I mean, I'm engaged. but I was thinking about like if I were taking a class on
Mm.
English literature and this book was assigned, how long it would take me to read it, because I'm reading it in small bits,
Yeah.
maybe a chapter
Hmm.
a night, two on a good night.
Yeah.
So, but maybe I've been reading more than that because I mean, when did we start?
It's true. I've been in it for a couple of months. So
Yeah, I think so too. Like I would be getting a C in this class if we were,
yeah.
if
Well, I
this
mean,
were assigned.
I would hope that any professor who assigns this book would give at least a third of the semester, maybe half the semester,
I would hope.
because
I
it's a
think
big book.
I bet it would 3 weeks. I bet it would get 3 or 4 weeks.
You might be right.
That's not
Yeah.
enough time.
Yeah. No.
I mean, if you were only taking 2 classes.
Yeah, you'd have all those other classes to take,
Right.
to read. But yeah, I think we did in Brandy's class, we did half the semester on Ulysses. So that's
Right.
about, that's about as heavy as they come. So
Yeah. So I only had him as a graduate student, so the reading was quite a lot different.
yeah.
The only one of his books that we didn't do in the semester was Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah, I've never read Finnegan's Wake.
I haven't either.
I don't have the guts.
I don't think it's going to happen for me.
Probably not. Maybe we'll do it here, but that's a monster. Yeah.
Is there a book to go along with it? Like the Ulysses has the companion
There are
readers.
many.
Are there for Finnegan's Wake?
Joseph Campbell, he wrote a companion to
I
Finnegan's,
didn't know that.
talking about all the mythological stuff in it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Maybe we'll do it. Why not? What the hell?
Yeah.
We got to be bright and adventurous, and
Yeah. Let's do it for Brandy. It's the only one we haven't read.
that's true. Yeah, I've read. I mean, he didn't write that many, but
That's
I've
true.
read everything else. I've read Dubliners, I've read Portrait of the Artist, and I've read Ulysses. So should before I should probably read.
Well, didn't he write chamber music? I don't even know if you can still get copies of that, the book of poetry.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And we read one of his plays, or maybe he only wrote one. It was called Exiles. You probably did read that in the undergraduate class.
I don't know if I'll get to those, but
okay. But we could do Finnegan's Wake.
We'll think about it.
We'll think about it. I feel like we need the companion book though.
Yeah, we'll probably need the companion book.
Oh yeah.
But we'll let the readers, we'll let the viewer comment, tell us what we should read next, and then we'll ignore the viewer.
Are we gonna give them a list to choose from?
Should we?
I think so.
You think so?
No, you don't think? Okay, let's leave it open then.
No. Let's make the list, and we'll put
then
it
we
out.
could tell them feel free to add something that's not on the list.
Right. Yeah. Preferably something cheap, that we can buy.
Well, you can set the terms.
Yeah, the price limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got to be great. It's got to be classic. Classic's in the title of the channel. It's got to be classic.
Okay.
Maybe a recent classic.
Okay, or one that's destined to be a classic.
That's true. Maybe we could stretch the definition a little bit.
Or one that should have been declared a classic but was overlooked.
Yes, but was derided.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thanks, Margaret.
Thank you. Yeah, this was fun. This is a great book to talk about.
Yeah, we'll try to. When you want to, do we want to set a date, or you want to just figure out, is a month enough to get through the rest, you think?
Who knows?
Okay, we'll tentatively say a month.
Okay.
We'll set up the actual date, but we'll let the viewer know that they've got at least a month before the next video drops.
Okay. Great talking with you, Ash.
You too. Say hi to Billy.
I will. Same to Kathy.
All right. And everybody can check out your stuff at margaretlongo.com.
Thank you. Where's your website? Are you Ash Clifton
Writer? AshCliftonWriter.com.
There you go.
So,
all right.
Onward and upward.
Take care, Ash.
You too. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.